The gruesome habits of Chinese concubines were perverted. In the shadows of the Forbidden City, behind the ornate gates and lavish courtyards, existed a world of perversion and debauchery, in a world where beauty was the driving force and a woman's worth was measured by her ability to please a man, lived the Imperial Chinese concubines. The concubines of ancient China were not merely beautiful objects of desire, but pawns in a twisted game of power and politics. They were trained in the art of seduction and manipulation, their bodies a weapon to be wielded by those in control. But as their masters grew increasingly perverted, the concubines were forced to adapt, taking their own pleasure where they could and using their skills to gain the upper hand. This is the scandalous tale of the habits of Chinese concubines and the dark world they inhabited. During the Tang Dynasty, 618 to 907 AD, the practice of keeping concubines was common among the wealthy and powerful in Chinese society. These women were often selected for their physical beauty and sexual appeal, and were kept as mistresses by wealthy men who were already married. The lives of Chinese concubines were often marked by strict rules, intense competition, and secrecy. The selection process for these women was rigorous and involved evaluations of their physical beauty, family background, and intelligence. While the lives of Chinese concubines were undoubtedly filled with luxury and privilege, they were also marked by a dark underbelly of abuse, exploitation, and physical harm. Today, these practices are seen as highly perverted and are rightfully condemned as a relic of a bygone era. Once selected, they were given a new name and were not allowed to return home or see their families. They were subject to constant surveillance by palace officials and were expected to follow strict rules and etiquette. Despite the luxurious lifestyle and high social status that came with being a concubine, these women were also subjected to brutal and gruesome practices that are now seen as perverted. One such practice was foot binding, a custom that became popular during the Song Dynasty, 960 to 1279 AD, and continued until the early 20th century. Foot binding involved the tight wrapping of a young girl's feet with cloth, causing the bones to break and the feet to remain small and deformed for the rest of her life. Foot binding often began when a girl was around 5 years old and involved breaking the toes and arches of the feet and then binding them tightly with cloth. This was seen as a sign of beauty and refinement and was required of all concubines. The process was incredibly painful and often led to infections and deformities. Another perverted habit of Chinese concubines was the use of makeup and cosmetics. The use of makeup made from lead and arsenic was applied to the face to create a porcelain-like appearance. This makeup was highly toxic and often led to serious health problems, including skin damage, hair loss, and even death. While the use of makeup is a common practice in many cultures, the use of toxic and dangerous substances was common in Imperial China. Women would apply lead-based makeup to their faces, which often caused lead poisoning and other health issues. The use of mercury-based cosmetics was also common, which could lead to mercury poisoning and even death. Moreover, sexual relationships between concubines and the emperor were also complex and often involved coercion or pressure from those in power. Women were expected to provide sexual companionship, entertainment, and bear the emperor's children. The emperor's first concubine held the highest status and had the most access to the emperor, while lower-ranking concubines were assigned menial tasks such as cleaning or cooking. In addition to these physical practices, concubines were also expected to be sexually submissive to their masters, often forced to engage in sexual acts against their will. They were also expected to be highly skilled in the arts of seduction and entertainment, with many being trained in singing, dancing, and other performance arts. Nonetheless, living in a separate part of the palace, known as the harem, concubines were expected to follow strict rules and etiquette, including maintaining cleanliness and dressing in a specific manner, attending to the emperor's needs, providing sexual companionship, entertainment, and bearing his children. However, they face significant challenges, including constant monitoring by palace officials, isolation from their families, and the constant threat of punishment or banishment if they failed to meet the emperor's expectations or fell out of favor with him. Adding fuel to the fire, the status and hierarchy among concubines were strictly defined and closely monitored, with the emperor's first concubine holding the highest status as the primary consort. The second and third ranking concubines were known as the secondary and tertiary consorts, respectively, while lower ranking concubines were assigned numbers to indicate their rank. The status and hierarchy were closely tied to their relationship with the emperor and their ability to gain his favor. While a higher-ranking concubine enjoyed more prestige and power, they also faced greater competition and pressure to maintain their position. Now a question arises: how were they selected? The selection process for concubines was a highly rigorous and competitive one, overseen by the emperor's mother and influenced by palace officials who looked for women with desirable traits such as physical beauty, family background, and intelligence. The women were typically between the ages of 13 and 16, and they had to undergo a strict examination process that evaluated their appearance, health, and manners. After being chosen as concubines, they had to undergo a series of rituals and tests to prove their loyalty, obedience, and suitability for the emperor's court. Once selected, concubines were given a new name and were not allowed to return home or see their families. Despite the challenges they faced, concubines played an important role in Imperial Chinese society. They were responsible for bearing the emperor's children and providing him with companionship and entertainment. However, their lives were often shrouded in secrecy and shame, leading to a distorted and filthy image of Chinese concubines that persists to this day. It is important to remember that the lives of Chinese concubines were shaped by the culture and societal norms of Imperial China. While the practices described may seem gruesome and perverted by modern standards, it is crucial to approach this topic with sensitivity and respect for the women who live these lives. However, the practice of concubinage was officially abolished in China in 1949 after the Communist Party came to power. Polygamy and concubinage were considered feudal practices and were seen as a symbol of the old society, which the Communist Party sought to eliminate. Today, the Chinese government prohibits polygamy and concubinage, and it is illegal to have more than one spouse or partner. Although there may still be instances of extramarital affairs or mistresses in contemporary Chinese society, these practices are no longer socially accepted or condoned, and those who engage in them may face legal consequences. Now, Chinese women are breaking barriers and achieving great success in various fields, from politics to business to the arts. While there is still work to be done in terms of combating gender-based violence and discrimination, the fact that China has taken such a firm stance against concubinage and polygamy is a promising sign. We must continue to strive for a world where women are valued and respected as equals to men, and where their rights and freedoms are protected. Thus, the legacy of Chinese concubines serves as a haunting reminder of the horrors that women have faced throughout history. But it also reminds us of the resilience and strength of women who have continued to fight for their rights and dignity in the face of oppression. We must honor their legacy by continuing to work toward a more just and equitable society for all. Overall, the gruesome habits of Chinese concubines are no longer a relevant aspect of Chinese culture or society. As we reflect on the gruesome habits of Chinese concubines, we cannot help but feel a deep sense of sadness and disgust for the women who were forced into this degrading lifestyle. Their lives were marked by physical and emotional abuse, as they were used solely for the pleasure and convenience of their male counterparts. Yet, it is important to remember that these practices have long been abolished in China, and the country has made significant strides toward gender equality and women's empowerment. Let us know in the comments what you think about this practice. For more historical videos, join us on our journey through time as we explore the fascinating stories and events that shaped our world. Subscribe to our channel and discover history like never before.